Okay.
Oh, hi. Welcome to the Men to Men interactive session. My name is Kelvin. With me this afternoon, it's Pastor Charles Ikutiminu. We're basically going to be talking and learning, and I believe finding, understanding that the life as it is today, there is always a purpose. There is a reason why God allowed the things that He allows in our lives. Understanding why, where we are as men, what the charge of God is for a man, going back to the foundation in the garden. And it's absolutely going to be a very, very informative time. And I can't wait. Good morning, Pastor Charles.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on part of the world you're in. Thank you for
Absolutely.
an opportunity to be on
Absolutely.
Man to Man.
Yes. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome. I know that this whole is your alley. It's your will where you function out of, mentoring men, teaching men, leading not just your family but leading men across the globe. Today we're looking and we're looking to glean from understanding years of experience and how to pursue God in the seasons that we are in. More so, there's the rumor of war. I mean, they're already calling it a third world war, the post-pandemic war world, and in fact, they're already gearing up for another wave of COVID. Some have not been able to get back to work. Some have lost a lot of family members to COVID. Um, some have become isolated. They got used to the last 2 years of being working from home, and now the fear of even getting back into an office space with people you've worked with for years, that is traumatizing for some. The children, the home front, the wife, everybody is just asking, where do we go from here? And I sincerely believe that God has an answer for every and everything that we situations that we find ourselves in. Um, and I hope that this session, this morning, we're able to learn, we're able to glean, and have an understanding, a perspective of how we're looking at things or how we should look at things. I'm gonna go ahead and just turn it over to you, sir.
Well, I want to express my deep gratitude to the well experience for this opportunity. For text, we're looking at Ecclesiastes and chapter 3, verse 1. But just so that we don't con the text, let's get some context in reading Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse
Yes.
1 and a few verses after that.
Yes.
For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under the heaven, a
Yes.
time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill, a time to heal, a
Yes.
time to tear down and a time to build, a time to cry, a time to laugh, a time to grieve, a time to dance, a time to scatter stones, a time to gather stones, a time to embrace, a time to turn away, a time to search, a time to quit searching, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a
Yes.
time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war, a time of peace. What do people really get for all their hard work? I have seen the burden God has placed on us all. Yet, God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart. But even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. It, I love the wisdom that the book of Ecclesiastes brings to us one of the things that in the last couple of months has just become a better understanding is that from the perspective of the Torah, from the perspective of the student of Jewish literature, the book of Ecclesiastes is one of 3 books called the wisdom literature. That is the book of Proverbs, the book of Ecclesiastes, and the book of Job. Okay. And that to understand the context of what God is revealing in the wisdom literature, you have to embrace those 3 books together. One viewing from one will live in isolation. What we see in those 3 books is the understanding of this, that there are principles that God has woven in his wisdom into the universe he created. 2, that there's the call that underlines all that God created, that we should press after God, press into God, and seek to have intimacy with him. And in that process, something of reverential fear will undergird our hearts, and not just in how we act, but in how we think, in our motives and in our attitudes. And that reverential fear is supposed to be that encounter we embrace from every time we come before him, that guides how we act and deal with people. Then finally, that there are dimensions of things that happen on the earth that are a function of his sovereign choice. That life does not run in straight lines. That there are things that you and I will always be flummoxed about. We won't have answers for. But that we must rest and trust in the choice of him that runs the universe. You see, by original design, the one who is the creator God, the one who is the monarch of all of the universe, chose us as men, created in his image, to partner with him in the work of redemption. So we were never to run this on our own. We were always designed as kings and priests in the earth to partner with him to run the affairs that he gives us jurisdiction for. So I think one of the things that must be clear to us, that in this time and in this season, we're doing what we always do. It's not a different, it's a different season, but it doesn't change how we operate. The same way we have always operated is the same way we ought to operate. Looking to him, leaning and pressing into him, listening for him, and obeying whatever he tells us to do.
Pastor Charles, this is good. I knew this was going to be an exciting time. There's a question that comes to mind just listening to you unpack Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 and a few other verses. So several years ago, I would try and be as discreet or as polished as possible in this matter. This was several years ago. Somewhere, a family friend of ours was having his 50th birthday at that time, and we had gone for that evening. While we were out there, the alarm company called me that the zone 3, which is a motion in the house, had gone off. Do we have a pet at home? I mean, it was supposed to be an all evening, so obviously the kids were with the babysitter. There was nobody in the house. And the fact that it was a motion, I'm like, I don't have a pet at home. Go ahead and send the cops and whatever. And we got here. The police was already waiting. And those who were at the event came and joined us. And I can't forget the question I was asked by one of the persons who came over. The house had been broken into, but I guess the alarm scared them and they ran off or whatever. And the person asked me, how are you current on your tithes? And I had in that moment, I sincerely had a flash, because I remember that season of my life. If anything at all, tithe wasn't my problem. It was paid and above. So it bothered me that someone in that office, because this is somebody I looked to in that office, that was what you thought was a reason for this. And I say that to say, how do we explain situations in our lives when seemingly on this surface we seem to have, oh, the reason why that is happening is this? How do we explain that? Because to someone like me, thank God I wasn't a baby in the faith. I knew you didn't know what you were talking about, because I knew what the records bear. So you asking me that, I felt like, oh, okay, do I need to really check you out? But I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, man of God. How do we look at those questions that are being asked of us when this is obviously a season?
So one of the things that I think it's important is putting perspective as we deal with issues. You see, the whole of the book of Job,
yes, sir,
gives a perspective that I recently I have a group of brothers that twice a week we read the word together. We read the word and we allow God to speak to us through our gathering. I believe there's a reason why Jesus said, anywhere 2 or 3 are gathered in his name, there he is in the midst of them. I attend a mega church. I'm a part of a mega church. But Jesus said 2 or 3. There's a reason for 2 or 3.
Yes.
I believe that through the pandemic, and as we approach what we'll describe as post-pandemic, that understanding is one of the things that God in his wisdom reset in this church. The value of 2 or 3, that the greatest of health, the greatest of spiritual nurture happens in the dynamics of small groups, smaller gatherings.
Yes.
Thank God for large gatherings of churches,
yes. Oh,
but the greater qualities. And one of the things that happened recently in our small group of men is we read through the book of Ecclesiastes, and we'll take turns. We'll read the scripture. Two or 3 will be listening. 1 will be reading. Then we'll read a couple of chapters. We read through the book of the book of Job. And one of the things that was startling for me is that all of Job's 3 friends, yes, they may have lacked tact in what they said, but they came to be with their friend.
Yes.
But this is what shocked me, that though through ministry experience and through just being pastoral love and care, I wouldn't have said the things that Job's friends said to him.
Okay.
I was shocked that almost everything they said, Charles Ikutiminu thinks. My upbringing in church had trained me and continues to train me otherwise, that I think the way Job's friends thinks. That Job, what's happening to you is because you did something.
Yes.
It's not possible that all this evil happened to you and you didn't do something. You must have done something somewhere. You must have cheated somebody working for you. You must have cheated an orphan. You must have acted wrongly to a widow, because there's a training that says what you're going through is a function of something you did. But this is what is clear in the book of Job in the beginning. God made it clear.
Yes.
He's a good man, which gives me concern. Be careful if God brags about you.
When God brags about you, be careful. Be careful. Be careful.
And 2, Job, Satan implies that the reason the guy is working your system, that's why I can't touch him. The implication there is, I've actually tried to touch him, but I couldn't because you protected him.
Yes.
Then something of God in his sovereignty gives Satan permission. This is what we see. Nothing of what happened to Job was a function of something he had done.
No, absolutely.
It was something of the sovereignty of God.
Yes.
At the end of the events in chapter